stay till the end because I have a really cool thing that I want to cover. I in no way endorse what this is about. I'm not saying to go out and find this, go out and read this. I found this really cool thing, and this is the real doozy. Only at Zach Loves Books. So today the topic of this post is why I don't cover popular books. And I mean, that's a little misleading. I do want to cover popular books. You know, I would love to cover Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. I see everybody else covering it. I would love to cover other popular books like that as well. It's just, that's the thing, is that all the YouTubers are covering the same popular books. And that's not what I want to do here at Zach Loves Books. What I want to do is I want to cover the books that I go out when I go book hunting, and I go to these obscure little bookshops, used bookstores, and I find a gem of a book where, you know, I pick it up and I start looking through it and I'm like, what is this? Or I'm like, what the is this? And those are the kind of books, and it doesn't matter to me whether it's a bestseller or, you know, if everybody's reading it. I want to tell you guys about weird, obscure books that sound interesting to read. They could be out of print, and my kind of whole focus for this channel is for you to go, hey, that sounds really interesting. You know, I'm going to look that up or put it on my wish list and on my TBR. And when I go out there, if I see that book, you know, I want to remember that Zach from Zach Loves Books mentioned this book and it's cool, and that's why I want to buy it, because reading books is not just about reading the popular books and the new ones coming out. To me, it's about reading. And so that's why I want Zach Loves Books to be different in that sense, where I cover books you may never heard of. I'm hoping that most of the books that I cover, you've just never heard of anywhere else. And that's what I hope brings you back to this channel every time. So with that being said, I'm going to cover 4 books that I hope that you haven't heard of. Unpopular, maybe. You know, none of these say like bestseller on the front. And if you haven't heard from them, but they pique your interest, check them out. So the first one, this has been on my bookshelf forever. It's nonfiction, and I just think it's a really cool book. It's called The Con Artist Handbook by Joel Levy. This is like not a long read. It's nonfiction, so you can dive into any part of it, and it basically covers like the anatomy of a scam, all the type of scams, the lottery scam, the mustard squirter, the loading bay scam, rock in the box. They have all the scams that, you know, you could think of here, short of the new scams that you have today, which are all digital, and how they work. And I don't know if you can get this anywhere, but I just think it's a cool book to own. So that's a hard one to find. So you may have to go on A-Books or somewhere to find this book. So getting on to another book that's been on my shelf forever that I know people are going to find squeamish. And I love the cover. It's called Rats: Observations on the History and Habitat of the City's Most Unwanted Inhabitants. And you'll see there, you know, they show Manhattan shaped like a rat. This is by Robert Sullivan. And from what I've read, I haven't read the book, and it's on my TBR, but he actually goes to New York and I think studies these rats, its life, and all the other characters that surround its existence, you know, shopkeepers, sanitation workers, activists, history of the rats in New York City. Like I said, squeamish read for a lot of people out there, but nevertheless interesting and curiosity piquing for someone like myself. And like I said, you'll only find, I hope, books like this on Zach Loves Books. This book is another cool one that's been sitting on my shelf forever. I want to get to it. And like I said, hopefully any of the books that I talk about today, you won't hear about anywhere else except for at Zach Loves Books. It's called Give Me My Father's Body by Ken Harper. The Life of Minnick, the New York Eskimo. Now, the reason why this book is cool, it's about an explorer who went to Greenland back in 1897, picked up 6 Eskimos, and on his way back, dumped them off in New York at the museum, American Museum of Natural History. And then, you know, he just left them there to be poked and prodded, displayed by the public. Some of them died. I think 3 of them died. One of them made it back to Greenland, and then there was one left, and his name was Minnick, and this is his story. And I don't know if it's about somebody that came maybe looking for it. I don't know if it was the son that came, and that's why it's called Give Me My Father's Body. Because this is a type of history that we should be interested in. And read about history that maybe nobody wants to talk about anymore. But this kind of stuff happened. I know maybe Jeff at Reading Still Matters might be interested in something like this since it's history, but it's on my shelf, and that's a second obscure read that you may have never heard of that you may want to check out. I don't know where I picked this up. It retailed for $20.95. Like I said, you might have to pick this up at A Books or like some weird used bookstore somewhere if you find it. Seems like a gem. Another interesting story. Now this one's really cool. This is also one, I don't know if it's probably out of print. I've had it for a long time, but nevertheless, interesting topic, nonfiction. It's called Ghost Boy. The miraculous escape of a misdiagnosed boy trapped inside his own body. This is nonfiction, it's not fiction, but it kind of reads like it could be fiction. This is about a kid who, in 1988, went home from school complaining of a sore throat, went into a coma. He became a mute, quadriplegic, basically spent 10 years in a coma, but during those 10 years, he was aware of everything, and he could hear all the conversations happening around him. So imagine what that would be like, 10 years laying in a care center while everyone around you talked about you. Interesting topic once again. If you think that this is up your alley, take a look for it, see if you can find it. It's by Martin Pistorius, who is actually the boy who's the subject of this story. So check that out. The last book I have to show you guys today, and this one, just like the others, have been on my shelf forever, and I want to get to it. I'm dying to get to it, actually. This is nonfiction, a real story about a bag of money, maybe in dollars, that fell off of a truck, I think somewhere in New York or some big city in the States. I didn't even open it to check. All I remember was what I read when I picked it up. And somebody finds it, tells somebody else, and they try to hide it. And what would you do if you found a bag of money in a laundry bag in the back of that fell off the back of a truck? Like I said, it reminds me of Scott Smith's fiction book, A Simple Plan. But this is the real thing, by Mark Bowden, who also wrote Black Hawk Down. So if you like Mark Bowden and this sounds interesting to you, check it out. The last one I want to cover today, and I in no way endorse what this is about. I'm not saying to go out and find this, go out and read this. I found this really cool thing, and it's not a book, but it looks like some kind of self-published zine or something, which I didn't think people do anymore. But this is so cool. Look at this. Whatever this is, it says U.S. Department of Justice, Federal Bureau of Investigation. And then here it says time travel. And somebody printed this on a manila folder to make it look like it's an actual file from the FBI. And then they photocopied a document that says time travel is real. And it looks like it was typewritten, obviously photocopied. And then it has a dude that's like, has a podcast. And it says, time travel is real, I have proof. And this guy gets a call from his mom in the middle of it. And, you know, he says, yes, I took my meds. It is, it's actually twisted. And so simple, yet so creative. I don't even know what to make of it. And then at the end, it says, to be continued here, and it has a QR code, and you click it, and it sends you to a YouTube link that kind of like expands on what this is all about. I went to the YouTube link, and yeah, it's just kooky. I don't know what to make of it. I don't know if it's somebody who's a little off their rocker that put this together. So it actually, I kind of found it a bit disturbing, but I thought I would share that with you guys. You won't find this anywhere, and I'm sure this wasn't published by mainstream publishing. I don't know how this ended up. I found it in a little library in the mall next to where I live, and I'm up here in Toronto, Canada, but obviously this is not real, but creative nevertheless. Only at Zach Loves Books. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you on the next one, all right? Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like the content.